Why I only play old games? So before I start the video, I play a lot of old games. So here's my view. I can understand when people have started to play older games a lot more, because I do play older games a lot more. Around the like 2008 to like 2015, which I would consider still older games, even the 2015 ones. But yeah, because a lot of like the modern games aren't really that good. Just my view though. But yeah, let's get into it. If it actually would
Hey
genuinely
guys,
start.
do you ever just wanna or even because I do.
I've never once played World of Warcraft. Not once. And I don't really have any interest in getting into it. I have played Oblivion though, and Oblivion is really good. Oblivion is generally really good. It's a really good game.
Like all the time. The truth is, I haven't been excited about a new release for a very long time. The last new game that I was really anticipating would have been like
Outlast
Outlast
Trials.
Trials or the anniversary edition of Beyond Good and Evil, a game which came out in 2003 by the way, and even that I was anticipating with caution because, you know, it is Ubisoft and
When was the last time I was excited for a new release? I think Xenoblade 3, but I also know that they make good games. I guess that was like the last time where I was like, oh yeah, I'm genuinely excited. I think Sparking Zero also falls on that, though I was still cautious because I didn't know if they had GT or not, so I was careful. Yeah, I think Xenoblade 3 was the last game was genuinely not struggling.
and nobody wants to see their favorite game ruined. When I have spare time, when I want to chill and just immerse myself in a different world, I go for games that are like 20 years old, or somewhere around that. If you watched my channel at all, you will know that I'm somebody that appreciates the finer details in games. I really love worlds that feel alive, eccentric characters, cozy environments. I like beautiful things like art, and of course, my favorite, I like clothing and accessories. More and more I'm finding that modern games have nothing to offer me, and I do want to preface this by saying that this is strictly my opinion, but you know, you would think that with the technology that we have now,
I think that goes for a lot of people, because like a lot of like fan bases are super like alienated by the franchises that they enjoy. I I don't think that's a you problem at this point.
all of those things that I mentioned earlier could be improved upon tenfold, but alas, we are given bland worlds, sometimes a lecture in politics, and
There it is! Dustborn! There it is! IGN gave it a 7. And it gave Sparking Zero a 7 as well. Remember that. And Concord.
the erasure of femininity in gaming. The last point in particular is something that I, as a female gamer, really hate to see, because in the industry's attempt to become more inclusive and conscious of the issues that women deal with when it comes to depictions in media, they've actually gone and made femininity inherently evil and sexualized. Through different companies' actions, we're being shown that beauty and
I think this is also not just a problem of like uglifying women. Like there's definitely like they're attempting to like reduce femininity on female characters. But I think what also is a huge problem is that with better graphics also comes the realism, which kind of makes is also like adds to that.
beautiful women have no space in modern gaming, that they're just too much. Aside
Really? Really? They censored paintings in the game?
have no space in modern gaming, that
This is just a straight up downgrade. What happened? Women's bodies get censored or turned to fruit. I have seen that. I have seen that. I think I was really annoyed by Smash Bros. Censoring Mithra from Xenoblade 2. There are also other like things where characters were censored. Um, Dragon Quest 3, the HD 2D remake, also falls into that category of games that get sent where female characters get censored. But the game also censored the lips of trolls, and it also censored male characters. So even the male characters aren't safe, because everything that depicts masculinity is just equally as bad, if not even worse.
That they're just too much. Aside from that, their portrayal of what it means to be a strong woman suggests that we need to be able to physically overpower our male opponents. The greatest example of this for me is Abby.
That reminds me of a little bit of history. So here's a little history fact. You know how women ruled back in the day? So from what I know, from what I've studied, a lot of women that were in power, had to be a lot more cruel than male rulers to exert that they are capable of ruling, which makes you think. Is this like kind of like similar? Is it this is I see the what's the word? I see the overlap. I see the similarities.
From The Last of Us 2, who is not only the least relatable female protagonist I've seen in like any game ever, she's also said to be extremely unlikable from the start for what she does to our beloved Joel. The game tries its best to make you sympathize with her by telling you her part of the story, but the combination of her unrealistic build and her actions throughout the game just make me resent her. And yes, it is an unrealistic build. I'm sorry, but we are in a post-apocalyptic world. Even if she did have access.
So I played The Last of Us 1. Great game, amazing game. I did not play The Last of Us 2 because there was a better option around at the time, a better game, and that was Ghost of Tsushima, who probably will have a huge fall off considering Ghost of Yotei. But we have to wait, see like a lot more of the game to like make an accurate like judgment of that game. I am happy that I didn't buy that game, because if I bought it, I would have dropped the moment Joel got killed by her. Okay. The idea of killing a protagonist of the last game by a protagonist of the current game will, no matter what you do, make that new protagonist unlikable. It seriously does not matter.
To like top of the line gym equipment in her commune, I doubt that they could ration enough greens and protein for her meal prep to allow her enough time to even get close to that physique.
Even Dragon Ball made it more accurate, with like future Trunks being a lot more slimmer than the Z version, because like nutrients and stuff.
You would need some post-apocalyptic steroids, which sets an unhealthy standard, by the way, to make it make sense. But no, the industry thinks I'm an idiot because I'm supposed to say, oh, great, a strong woman, because there's nothing other than huge muscular arms that could mean a strong woman. Going back to an old game, I'll compare Abby to Jade from Beyond Good and Evil. Now, this game originally came out in 2003, and the protagonist is actually more of a tomboy, but she's still very charming, and the game encourages you to find ways other than physical.
What these motherfuckers have done to tomboys is insane. We have people on the internet that cannot comprehend, or like people even in the gaming industry, we have people in this society that cannot comprehend that a woman can be into boyish things and still be a woman. They cannot comprehend that a woman can be a tomboy and still be straight. The tomboy erasure is insane, because every tomboy is gay. At least that's what people want to think. No, there can be tomboys that like men. There can be tomboys that are just that. Tomboys.
Fighting to progress. It has great stealth, She's brave, she wants to expose her government for their evil doings, just a very likable character and someone that you could root for. She looks pretty and somehow is in no way sexualized. Weird that they could do that, right? Speaking of unlikable characters, let's talk about Concord. Aside from the fact that none of the characters are appealing in any way, and I do mean male or female, they're also just poorly designed. There is no personality to them, no depth, nothing that would inspire me to, I don't know, want to call.
I mean, actually, give this chick a different outfit and she doesn't even look half bad. I'll be real. I think this is one of the better designs by Concord. If it is a chick. I hope it is.
Cosplay them, for example, and I mean, half of them look like they're a ripoff of something that already exists. Sindel from Mortal Kombat has certainly seen better days. You compare these to heroes from other hero shooters, even the free-to-play ones, and you can see that there's a massive difference. Like, these are beloved characters, people have cosplayed these, you know, they're memorable, people that haven't even played the games know who they are and would likely know them by name as well. Whereas Concord's heroes are at best like 800 V-Bucks Fortnite skins. And you know what, even Fortnite skins have more personality than what they've created here. We know by now that when something like this gets any sort of criticism, the industry will tell you that it doesn't matter because it's the opinion of straight men, so it doesn't count. Which, by the way, great job ignoring and vilifying like a huge chunk of your audience.
The majority of gamers in the US are 55% in terms of raw numbers. There are approximately 1.7 billion male gamers and 1.37 billion female gamers worldwide. According to the latest data, 4 in 5 8% gamers are over 18. So pretty much, in the United States, we have a 45-55 ratio. Depending on the like genre, this gets even this gets kind of worse. This gets kind of worse. Because I can already assume, like, when we talk about fighting games, I think Capcom made something like a vote or anything where like you were able to like give your gender. It's, I think, for fighting games from at least Capcom, it's 82% male and like 18% female, around that, like point something. It's interesting. So that is even more diluted depending on like the genre.
However, when I as a woman express my opinions and say that I don't like it, I explain the issues that I have with it, I will be told that I'm just being a pick-me girl, pandering to the men that don't like it. Give me a break. A dragon break. You're telling me straight up that a woman is incapable of coming to that conclusion on her own without men telling her that that is the way. You know what they call that? So yeah, instead of arguing with you and getting called a talentless freak, actual quote from Concord developer, I'm just gonna go and...
Former Concord developer. They weren't even with Concord when the game launched. Which tells you something.
Create a new Minecraft world. So as I have said, beautiful women in gaming seem to be an absolute no-go nowadays. And we see this in the news.
Funny enough, for the PlayStation 5 remaster for Horizon Zero Dawn, they made Aloy even prettier than she was in the original. That's interesting to look at. And people were seething on Twitter because of that.
Star Wars Outlaws. It feels like the developers literally went out of their way to diminish this character's looks, especially when you compare her to her face model. Like, they really did.
Ain't no way. If you like gave me no context. Yo, Willow, hi, how are you doing? Hope you're doing good. If you like gave me just these pictures and would tell me that these are the same people, I would be very confused. This isn't even close. What did they do? There is no way. Let me get this straight. We have perfect, great examples of wonderful game characters who are based on actual models when we talk about Stellar Blade, But when we look at this, they weren't able to do it, or they didn't do it on purpose. This is not the same person.
Her dirty, and in their attempt to make this character less attractive, I actually think that they made her look not human. People don't look like that. Of course, the game is currently receiving backlash for a lot of other things, mainly how it feels so unfinished and broken, but aside from how she looks, it's also the fact that developers are held to these quotas at all, so they were, quote, pushing for a black or female lead in a Star Wars game. Now, what this tells me is that the character and the story don't matter as much as their identity. So this is why we're no longer getting well-written and actually interesting, strong female leads in games.
Because the message is more important than the product, and then we see that product absolutely and utterly fail. So the pretty much the point is just that the message matters more than like the actual end product. Which kind of makes sense when we look at Ubisoft, when we look at current Sony, when we look at going back to a 7-year-old game and censoring it with an update. I'm looking at Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Women have become a box that needs to be checked. We can sort of see this in the kind of criticism that
it's not just women. I have some minorities here and there in chat. Black people, bisexual people, gay people, trans people. You need to understand, you are a box to get funding, and you need to be checked. Nothing else. These people don't care about actually genuinely representing you. They just want your money, and they want funding. That is all they ever wanted.
Against the current are receiving as well, like Black Myth Wukong. An issue that some reviewer had was that they didn't come across any female characters in the beginning of the game. Now, there are female characters in Wukong, but if you don't meet them straight away, that is bad for some reason. We're not letting developers tell a story how they want to tell it, how it's meant to be told. We need to dictate how they're telling these stories so that they will fit our standards. In the year 2000, 24 years ago, Diablo 2 came out. Now this was years before we had any of these new ideas and standards. The game's opening act centers around the women who were forced to leave their monastery because of the Demon Queen Andariel. These women are warriors themselves or rogues, perfectly capable of holding their own, but they do seek the hero's help, which can be male or female depending on your class, as they are being overrun by their corrupted sisters. The first mini-boss is a callback to one of the main classes.
I have never played Diablo. I've never played any Diablo. I think I missed something, and I probably should do that. Not the current Diablo, but like at least like Diablo 1, 2, 3. I probably think I should like play those eventually. Also, I just realized this. How are these like super pixelated female characters more feminine than modern female characters? What happened?
As in Diablo 1, then we have the Countess, which is a really clever historical reference to Elizabeth Bathory, or one of the most prolific female serial killers of all time. Now, this fits the world perfectly, and above all, it's just great for Act 1. Finally, you face my favorite boss in the game, Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish. I go back to Diablo 2 all the time because it feels like you're actually part of like a really dark and interesting story. None of it feels forced.
Diablo 2 is too good. I genuinely think I should play these games. I genuinely think I should do that.
Characters don't appear to have been added for the sake of any quotas or checked boxes, and it's all very natural and organic. I know in the past there were of course games that had, say, over...
You know what game I genuinely really like go back to quite a bit? It's It's Tales of Symphonia. If you never have played a Tales game, we ignore Tales of Arise. That is an as game, just like Tales of Cestiria. That is also a horrible game in my opinion. The combat system is dog water. But one game series that I can definitely recommend is the Tales of series, except for Arise currently, because I think that game is horrible in my opinion. I think that game is so horrible. I didn't like it at all. But yeah, that's one game series that I definitely recommend. Wonderful JRPGs, especially Tales of Symphonia. Tales of Symphonia is the magnum opus of JRPGs. That will never change for me.
Over the top depictions with female characters, and an example that is often brought up is Mortal Kombat 9. But the thing about this is, everything in Mortal Kombat was historically over the top. Like, we're talking literally pulling someone's spine out or feeding their spleen back to them. I don't know, I made that one up.
Bye bye, take care.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it was real. Like, a whole rating system had to be created because of these games. So, really, I don't know if I would see it as like a valid complaint. Like, it's there, I get it, but also, it is what it is. However, in the modern industry, we're sort of going in the complete opposite direction, and it's honestly doing more harm than good. Truthfully, and this is coming from a female gamer who is supposedly the audience for these new games, I would much rather watch paint dry than pay for this shit. Or level a warrior to 60 in WoW Classic, which is effectively the same thing. The main content on my channel has been centered around Elder Scrolls games, mainly Morrowind and Oblivion.
Why do they look so hot, the MK characters? Well, because back then, they had balls to make like attractive female characters, and currently they don't. I think what like when people see like, whoa, that character is super attractive, is like, yeah, but that's also because the Seema is not a gamer. I don't know. Well, I do consider her a gamer. This Seema is the yapper. You can be both, I guess. You can be both. Attractive female characters now are a lot more eye-catching, I would say, because there aren't that many in current times.
Which are both almost 2 decades old, and in 2024 I was able to grow a channel from 0 to where we are now, because I am not the only person who is so stuck on these old games. I've gone over my personal feelings and reasons why I feel like modern gaming has just...
On that note, the current, like, was it writer, was it creator? I don't know, somebody from like Bethesda said that gamers have too high expectations when it comes to bugs. And it's like, no. The main issue with bugs right now is that a lot of bugs are game breaking. It's not about like minor bugs like I don't know, like a dead body rotating on the ground. That is not the issue. Or like a dead body glitching through the floor. I don't care about that. Or glitching through anything. I don't care about that. It's the game-breaking bugs that are a problem. It's bugs that are like in Star Wars Outlaws that are a problem. It's not it's not like minor bugs. People don't care about minor bugs. We do have expectations that games are finished when we buy them. Looking at you, Pokemon Company, with your shitty Gen 4 remake.
Forgotten about people like me, in the name of supposedly including me more, but different people have different reasons for sticking to the beloved classics. A recent controversy, which most of you have probably heard of, was the showcase of an Assassin's Creed game that is based in Japan. We have Japanese gamers coming out and saying that they don't get it. It's offensive. There's a petition out there to cancel the release of this game in Japan. And why? Because the game's protagonist is a foreigner that gets to whoop Japanese people up and down the block. Tell me why, in Assassin's Creed 2,
and it's technically also racist to black people, because you know what music plays during the combat? Hip-hop. That didn't exist back in feudal Japan.
We have an Italian protagonist in Italy. We have a Native American guy in America in Assassin's Creed 3. We have a French protagonist in France. Why could we not have a Japanese protagonist in Japan? Japanese gamers don't relate
to... So as far as I'm aware, the original protagonist of Assassin's Creed Shadows was actually a Japanese monk. Which makes you think, what happened here?
this at all, and some of them have even highlighted other inaccuracies in the game which are disrespectful to their culture and their country, shows a huge lack of research from the developer side, but I guess their opinion doesn't matter because probably a straight man told them to think that way. I feel like it's a real shame that there's this awkwardness, or it can be seen as controversial to express these opinions, because if we're not going to get to talk about this, we are forever going to continue having this huge rift between gamers and developers, many failed projects in the future, lots of people losing their jobs.
You were talking about Diddy. We are talking about Diddy, and your older streams were so peaceful. They're still mostly peaceful. They said that about the riots during Black Lives Matter as well. Mostly peaceful. I think that she feels what we dudes feel, which is being alienated by the franchises we love. Because, spoiler alert, game developers, the women playing your games play your games because they are the way they are. You don't need to cater to them specifically because they already like the games. That's a shocking revelation, I know. Get these game developers get these game developers an ambulance. They might have a heart attack or a stroke from trying to understand that. Don't pause on that. She looks terrifying. Yeah.
Over said failed projects. This brings me to the Elder Scrolls 6. I'm at a point where I don't know if I even want them to go there anymore, because by today's standards there is just so much that could go wrong. A few months ago I came across this.
It's also like, and that's a problem. We have so many mods that turn Skyrim into a completely different game, to the point where, how is the Elder Scrolls 6 even going to measure up to that? We have mods that change enemies. We have mods that change the entire combat system. We have mods that turn this game literally into a Monster Hunter, or like any other like flashy slash and hack game. You took too long.
Really spicy hot take that said this.
Skyrim, the game by Bethesda, is a pro-colonization narrative and is racist.
Now,
Skyrim is just racist.
I did a full response to that video on my TikTok account when it came out, so I will leave it in the description of this video if you want to see that, but in short, I said the depiction does not equal endorsement. I'm seeing that we're starting to have a real problem with media literacy, like it's non-existent. So just because a particular topic is discussed in any piece of media, it is suddenly endorsed, it is shown as a good thing, according to these people. This girl gave many examples of depictions of racism in Skyrim, like where you can see the Nords ganging up on a dark elf in Windhelm.
Yeah. Remember? Yeah. The fantasy game that plays in somewhat middle-aged Europe has racism. That's like playing Warhammer and complaining that there's racism. That's like complaining, like playing D&D and complaining that there's racism. Like, no shit. That's what the creators were going for. Oh well, D&D tries to remove that though, so they are like also life support. Double Edge was a good game on the browser. It's still there. Okay.
And harassing her, referring to her race as the Greyskins, which is an attempt at a slur. But lest we forget, ladies and gentlemen, that the Dark Elves of Morrowind are not too fond of Outlanders themselves, or Enwas, as they call them. You see, Skyrim is an already incredibly diluted game when it comes to heavy and difficult topics compared to its predecessors. Like, I'm pretty sure that
No, it's what was the word? What's the big deal? You can't protect her. It's I don't know. It's funny how that creator complains about when a dark-skinned character receives racist, like a dark elf receives racism from lighter-skinned characters, but it's not the problem the other way around. Is it because when you look at like dark elves, you look at black people? How did you make that connection?
Of your race in the game, you may see slight dialogue differences, but you'll still have equal opportunities for progression throughout the game. It doesn't really change your journey much, whereas in Morrowind, based on your race, you'll actually have a different disposition with different races. So I guess you can call that racism built into the game, but it's just a realistic depiction of how different peoples would react to Outlanders in their homeland. Not only that, Morrowind deals with the very heavy topic of slavery. The player, while having the option to free slaves, can just as easily not help and in some cases make things worse. In Skyrim, there really isn't an action that you can take that compares to that. In fact, the way in which these racist encounters are presented are meant to make you feel sorry for the person being harassed and not the other way around. So if Skyrim, as I've said, is already a more diluted version of events and is still causing such a stir with these people, what can we expect from the next
Because they cannot differentiate between fiction and reality. It is that simple. Remember, we live in a reality where your height can determine whether you are considered an adult or not. The height of consent. And that is also a fictional problem.
Installment of the Elder Scrolls, because unfortunately these are the kind of people that are being listened to. Should we expect anything? Aren't we better off just replaying Oblivion for the billionth time instead of expecting like a complex and interesting story to come out of the next game? I'm also worried about the incessant attempts at monetization after you've already purchased a game, or if you're paying some sort of subscription. How are they going to implement their store into the game? I don't know about anyone else, but when I go into a game and I scroll to a page in the title screen where I'm seeing euro signs everywhere, it just takes me out of it. Not to mention how some companies just take it way too far, like Blizzard's greed in adding the level 60 boost to TBC Classic ruined TBC for me and for many others. Now, I know Elder Scrolls 6 isn't going to be an MMO, but they will likely try to continue monetizing the game long after you've purchased it, and I don't mean
I assume it's gonna be, I don't know, I wish it was just DLC. I know it's not just going to be DLC, but I wish it was.
Overpriced DLC. If the next Elder Scrolls game is just gonna give our beloved franchise a bad name, honestly, I'd rather not have it at all. Keep it a mystery and I'll just keep playing my old games. And that's it. This is me.
There's enough mods to make Skyrim fresh. There is enough mods to make Skyrim feel fresh every playthrough.
Coming back after 2 months with my boomer takes. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do apologize for being gone for so long. I couldn't have predicted it this time around, but I'm hopefully here to stay right now, and yeah.
That's the end of the video. I agree with a lot of points she made. I can understand why she plays older games. I also mostly just play older games. I rarely play like a really new one. Mostly when it comes to new games, it's just Nintendo. Or like indie games, so yeah, I agree with a lot of what she said.